So what really makes a great leader? Is it just something you're born with, or is it something anyone can actually learn? For decades, that's the exact question researchers have been trying to figure out. So in this explainer, we're going to take a journey through the super fascinating evolution of leadership theories to see if we can find some answers.
It really all boils down to that classic debate, doesn't it? Are great leaders born, or are they made? This one question has totally shaped how we think about leadership, and believe me, the answer has changed a lot over time.
So, the first and, let's be honest, the most intuitive idea was that great leaders are just, well, born different. This belief kicked off this massive search for a special set of qualities. The secret sauce that separated leaders from everybody else.
And this idea has a name. It's called trait theory. The core belief here is pretty simple. Effective leaders have these built-in, inherent personality traits that just naturally push them into leadership roles. It's all about who the person is.
This quote right here, it just perfectly sums up the whole philosophy. The idea that leadership is kind of like an exclusive club. You've either got the ticket from birth, or you're not getting in.
Okay, so what were these supposed born leader traits anyway? Well, researchers came up with these long lists, but some of the big ones that kept popping up were things like ambition, honesty and integrity, a whole lot of self-confidence, the power to influence others, initiative, and that really crucial ability to just see the big picture.
Really, the whole goal of this early research was to create a kind of leadership checklist. The hope was that if they could just identify the perfect combination of traits, we could spot our next great leader just by, checking off some boxes. Simple, right?
But yeah, there was a pretty big problem. It turned out researchers could never find a single universal set of traits that could predict who would be a great leader in every single situation. That simple little checklist, it just didn't work.
And this failure led to a really crucial shift in thinking. The whole conversation started moving away from who leaders are, their built-in traits, and moved toward what leaders actually do, their actions, their behaviors, the stuff you can actually see.
So that brings us right to the next big chapter in leadership thinking, where the spotlight moved completely onto a leader's actions. Enter behavioral and style theories. And these theories totally flip the script. They're all based on the idea that leadership isn't something you're just born with. It's a skill. It's something that can be learned, practiced, and developed. It's not about who you are. It's about what you do.
What this new approach gave us was basically a playbook of different leadership styles. For example, you've got the directive style. This is where the leader is in control, giving really clear instructions, perfect for when you have a new or inexperienced team. Then there's the coaching style, where a leader asks for input but still guides the final decision. You also have the supportive style. This is all about encouraging the team to make their own daily decisions, which is awesome for building up confidence. And finally, the delegating style. This is hands-off, letting a skilled, experienced team totally own their decisions.
So naturally, this leads to the next big question, right? If you've got all these different styles in the playbook, which one is the best one?
And the answer, maybe you guessed it, is, well, it depends. And that simple realization brought us into the most modern and definitely the most flexible way of thinking about what it means to lead.
This idea is at the very heart of what's called contingency theory. It basically argues that there is no single best way to be a leader. The most effective style always depends on the situation. It's contingent on it. You've got to think about the task at hand, the team you're working with, and the whole environment you're in.
A really great way to think about this is to compare leadership styles to speed limits. I mean, you wouldn't drive 80 miles an hour in a school zone, right? Of course not. The right speed always depends on the road. And it's the exact same idea with leadership. The right style always depends on the situation.
So what this means is that great leaders today aren't just masters of one single style. No, they're masters of flexibility. They have this whole range of styles they can pull from, and the real skill is knowing how to switch between them as the situation changes.
Okay, so how do we wrap all of this up? The best way to look at it is to stop thinking of these theories as competing against each other. Instead, think of them as different tools you can put in your own personal leadership toolkit.
So let's look at how this toolkit comes together. Trait theory, that helps us understand our own natural strengths and weaknesses. Style theory, that gives us the actual playbook of different actions we can take. And contingency theory, well, that's the wisdom. That's what tells us which tool to pull out of the kit for any given job.
So we're back where we started. Are leaders born, or are they made? Well, it turns out the answer is kind of both. We're all born with certain traits, sure, but we make ourselves into leaders by learning different styles and, crucially, developing the wisdom to know when to use them. So now you have the tools. The only question left is, what kind of leader will you choose to be?